What's up guys? We just closed on another property on Friday. Today is Sunday, and in this video, we're gonna go walk through it, so let's get to it. Y'all know why I gotta put a hat on. Okay, that is something I've not seen before, but this gas station, they play classical music to prevent homeless people from sleeping outside of it. So they literally have classical music playing all the time so homeless people don't camp up and sleep there. Better than spikes, I guess. I wonder if that would work at rental properties, like prevent squatters, just blast classical music really loud. Like, man, I don't want to squat in this house. You hear how loud that music is? And like hide it under the floorboards. Might be a good idea. For those of you who are new here, I live an hour outside of the market we invest in. There was this YouTuber, he doesn't post anymore. His name was Invest with Ace, and basically his Goldilocks zone for the best markets for the Burr method are typically towns with a population above 60,000 people, under 300,000 people, about an hour outside of a major city. So our primary market is exactly that. We're an hour outside of a major city. Our population is about 90,000 people, and it's a little bit of a rougher town, I'm not gonna lie. I personally wouldn't live there, but it makes for fantastic investments. And look, I like driving, so the hour drive to go check out the properties twice a week isn't too bad for me. I do it on Sundays because that's when traffic is the lowest and my phone won't be blowing up, so I can truly just check out the properties and have a good time. But yeah, if you're looking around your market and thinking, oh my goodness, everything's so expensive, first thing you should do is look about an hour to 2 hours outside of where you live, and then check out remote investing. It's the 21st century. If you don't like the market where you live, you don't have to invest there. You can invest remote. Lamborghini coming up right here. You see, I see people with like Lamborghinis, and all I can think is, how liquid is he though? How liquid is he? It's a cool car, but how liquid are you? I prioritize liquidity now over everything. In the beginning, all the money Antonio and I were making from wholesaling, we were spending on houses. Literally every penny, we were throwing it all into houses, whether purchase price or remodel. We would make our liquidity go to frickin' zero, actually negative. We would use credit cards to run remodels. We'd be leveraged to the gills. And now that we have payroll and actually an operating business, we prioritize liquidity a lot. We prioritize having a strong cash reserve, not just dumping every penny we have into houses. Now we will pass up on a good deal to preserve liquidity. And this is just talking in business and lifestyle too. I think you will sleep better at night and be happier if you had more liquidity than nice stuff. A nicer car and a nicer place you live versus being highly liquid, I will pick highly liquid every single time. So that's just a little bit of our mentality now. We love having lots of cash reserves for the business, lots of cash for our personal lives. As you guys can see, I rent an apartment. That is because I believe if you own where you live, that house or that condo, whatever, is more of a liability than it is an asset. So I believe rent where you live, own and rent rental properties. At least for now. Eventually, yeah, I'll buy my dream home, but for now, I love that if something in my apartment breaks, I call a landlord and they come and fix it. It's not on me. With all our rent houses, I got enough stress on me making sure those houses are maintained and taken care of that I don't want to have to worry about it in my own place. And also, rent is cheap and it's great. And I have so much more clarity and ease because I have so little personal overhead. I love that, and I'm gonna prioritize it. There's a lot of flexing in the real estate niche. Like, I bought this Lamborghini just with cash flow, all this stuff, and on my channel, I don't believe in that. I love doing deals. I love the team I work with. I don't really care if we're having nicer stuff. So I'm gonna show you guys the deals I do and the team that I love working with. That's what you guys get to see. If you wanna see cool cars, I don't know, go follow Donut Media or something, but that's not me. On that note, we're on our way to the property. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to see more content like this. All right, so we bought this house for $65,000. We closed on Friday. Closing cost was around $2,000, so we are all in so far $67,000. It looks a lot better on the outside than it does on the inside. The homeowner started doing the rehab. What I love is that he gave it a nice dry shell. So the roof is brand new and the exterior windows and siding is brand new. It's extremely important if you have vacant properties with no one living in it, you have a dry shell. That will prevent a lot of maintenance and repair issues that happen to vacant properties just by having a good roof and the exterior maintained. Dry shell, foundation, siding, roof, no moisture coming in. How did we find this property for $65,000 that's worth probably about $140,000? So how did we find this house for $65,000 that needs minimal work? Pretty simple actually. This one was found through direct mail. We just did a campaign of about 5,000 letters. We sent 5,000 letters every month. This property, the owner got a letter in the mail. They called in, our follow-up specialist answered, qualified the lead. Then Antonio got on the phone with them, made an offer, got under contract. 30 days later, we closed. Direct mail, not that many people are talking about it, but in our experience, it does better than cold calling and just about any other marketing channel. It is not the highest ROI, but it's the most consistent marketing channel for finding discounted off-market deals like this. We bought it for $65,000. It's worth $140. Here's how much work we have to do to it. All right, I tried to make it work on this. I left the markers at the office today, so today looks like I'm gonna have to be doing all this in post. But our first cost for this deal was direct mail. So we spend roughly $5,000 to $10,000 a month on our mailing, depending on the list we pull for that month. So for this deal, that $5,000 direct mail cost is not 100% associated to this deal, but it roughly costs us $2,000 worth of mailing per discounted off-market deal like this one. So for marketing costs, I will put it at $2,000. Bink. The next cost, I already talked about it on the HUD. So we got it for $65,000, but the total wire we had to send to the title company was $67,750. So it was right about $2,750 worth of closing cost and fees. So right now we're all in $67,750. Throw in the marketing cost. So it's roughly say we're at about $69,750 or $70,000 all in on this property so far, and we haven't even started the remodel. This remodel is basically a labor only job because the previous owner left all of the material here. So we really are just paying for labor. The quote we got during escrow was right around $12,000, and that's pretty much all going towards labor and then some of the essential systems being fixed and updated. So we add in $12,000, bink, $12,000 there. What will this place appraise for? We have it appraising for $115,000 to $135,000. It's a good area, and this is gonna be a 3-bed, 2-bath. 3-bed, 2-baths in our market tend to almost always appraise over $120,000, and they do the best for renting in our market. Whether it's Section 8 or just standard tenants for our market, 3-2s do fantastic. And I would say that honestly applies to most markets. 3-2s satisfy the demand of the largest rental population. Everybody wants a 3-2. That covers families and it covers a lot of people's need for housing is 3-bed, 2-baths. The values are there and the rent demand is there. We love 3-bed, 2-baths. So assuming we're all in $82,000 after the remodel, the minimum this needs to appraise for it to be a great BRRRR deal is $109,000. Like I just said, the bare minimum we see it appraising for is $115,000. On the upside scenario, it appraises for $135,000. So that could put us at pulling out an extra $20,000 if we get that upside scenario on the appraisal. Okay, that's a fantastic deal. I'm basically saying our worst case scenario, we're pulling out, we hit the 75% rule on the downside scenario. And on the upside scenario, we're pulling out $20,000 more. Deals like this are extremely common to us. You talk to any other investor, they'll tell you deals like this, they're perplexed. They don't understand how we got deals like this. That $20,000 spread is the result of our direct mail marketing. See, if you're an investor and you're finding off-market deals, you're either going through a wholesaler or a realtor that finds pocket listings. The potential for us to pull out $20,000 more than we put in, and the likelihood being high, is because we source our own deal through that $2,000 direct mail marketing cost we associated with this deal. So basically, our ROI on that $2,000 in marketing is gonna be that extra equity. If this was a wholesale deal and we were trying to calculate the ROI on that direct mail marketing, whatever the wholesale fee, say we spent $2,000 in direct mail to get this deal and we wholesaled it and made a $2,000 wholesale fee, we got a 5x return. With this, because we are the end buyer, that equity upside, our return on that direct mail is gonna be potentially 10x. Relying on getting deals, there's spiders all up in here. If you're relying on getting deals on the market, you are at the mercy of how the market is doing for whether or not the BRRRR method works in 2026. You are extremely vulnerable to market fluctuations. If it's a buyer's market or seller's market, that's what's determining if the BRRRR method works for you. If you do your own marketing and source off-market deals, it does not matter what the market is doing, you can still make the BRRRR method work. See, if you're buying deals at 40% market value, it doesn't matter if it's a buyer's market, seller's market, high interest rates, low interest rates, the BRRRR method is gonna work for you. So a lot of people get sticker shock when I tell them how much we spend on marketing, but the ROI on that marketing with the equity it creates in our deals and the fact that it allows us to buy and keep buying and doing the BRRRR method regardless of market conditions makes it all worth it. Regardless of what the economy is doing or going on in the world, if you're buying properties at 30, 40% market value, you're gonna win. There's a reason why all the biggest real estate investors say you win on the purchase price. If you win on the purchase price, that trumps everything. After the scope of work, we will go to the office and talk about rent numbers and cash flow. It's 1,100 square feet, but all the flooring's already done, so material and labor for flooring is zero. Baseboards and trim we gotta do under $1,000 for the whole house. There's a few areas that need fixed up too. Stuff like this, getting this textured. Looking around the entire house, I would say fixing stuff like this, and this. Labor will be about $1,500. Again, all the material is already here. Electrical is good. We just need to do outlet covers like this. And then this needs to be GFCI so we get approved for Section 8. The windows are good, so no need to do windows. More electrical stuff, little bits of paint, vent covers, just a lot of miscellaneous stuff. Nothing crazy. One of the other biggest costs are bathrooms, but this one, tile is already done. So really we just have to do some touch-ups and finish it. They already ran new PEX, so we're good there. This one, even though this is a fine shower, rip this out and do tile just because we get better appraisals, but we don't have to do that. If we wanted to do the bare minimum and just get this place rented, honestly, labor under $4,000, materials already here, and then maybe $2,000 of miscellaneous electrical and plumbing fixes, and we'd be good. If we wanted to just do bare minimum, to just throw this on the market and just do a, just roll a dice with the appraiser, we could spend about $6,000 and we would be set. However, we want to push it and get the maximum appraised value. So we're going to put tile like you saw in the other bathroom in here. And then toilet vanity is good already. We're just going to put a mirror and obviously some touch-up paint and definitely a new shower head that's a bit sexier. Then all the other rooms are fine. It just needs some touch-up paint. Yeah, just some touch-up paint, little stuff, no big deal. And then blinds throughout, but it's like they almost got to the finish line with this remodel and then they just stopped. Exterior's already done. There's one electrical repair we got to do on the outside. I remember when a storm hit. Water heater's already good. Nice, good water heater. Don't need to worry about that. HVAC is also, let's check on it. It's a little bit old. We might have to replace it. And bare minimum would have been around $6,000 safely, but we're gonna squeeze in. As of the time of me posting this video, we still have not decided if we were gonna be replacing the HVAC. We're going to go through the entire remodel and see where our budget lands before we commit to replacing the HVAC. We may just tune it up a little bit, do some maintenance and see if we can get it running for the next 5 or so years. In the follow-up for this video, I will post whether or not we replace that system or not. And depending on if we did or did not, that would have an impact on our total cost. However, as long as the remodel is under 20 grand, our numbers are still great. New HVAC and upgrade that bathroom so we can really make sure, 1, that it rents well, 2, work orders and complaints are minimal, and 3, the appraisal comes out the way we want it. One thing we actually had to repair while we were in escrow. Oh my goodness, hello kitty. There was a storm, so this, we already got it quoted. It's gonna be like a $1,500 fix. Trust me, it looks worse than it is. It basically fell off the house from a storm, but we already got it quoted to fix. The outdoor unit looks pretty good, so our HVAC cost is really not gonna be that bad. Probably about $5,000 material and labor. Yeah, that sounds really cheap, but we source our own stuff from Dallas. So little electrical fix out here, but as you can see, we got some siding repair. The outside needs a little bit of work, but that was mostly from the storm. But yeah, nothing major. It's gonna be very minimal. So after the remodel and after the refinance and we get a tenant in here, how much money are we gonna be making every month? Spider, come on, Spider, leave me alone. We've one time had a worker who just stayed on the job a little too long after a hot day, and he was so exhausted, he left the key in there like that. I went to go check out the job site, and it was just a key hanging in the door. Got lucky that there were no break-ins, but stuff like that you gotta check, and that's why you gotta have a good GC that goes back and checks the guys. Because it happens, you know? Hopefully it doesn't happen more than once, but it can happen. That's mainly what you or your GC is there for. Catching stuff like that is a big part of your job or your GC's job. So what is our long-term play with this house, and how much money is it gonna pay us every month? So let's recap. This is direct mail, then we have purchase price. So I'll put a little letter, and then actual house itself. Purchase price, $65,000. $65,000 purchase price. We put down a $500 EMD, which at close it's deducted from the total amount you gotta bring to closing table. Total costs at the closing table was $2,750. That covered all of our title and processing fees, plus bought us our title insurance. Title insurance is really important because what it protects you against is if somebody comes out and says they have a claim to your property or ownership on your property or even a lien against your property, you get your purchase price back. It's kind of like if you buy a toaster at Walmart and you do the little $2 thing to cover if it breaks. The difference is it's for if somebody has a claim to the title on your property, whether it's a lien or ownership. We have had this happen to us. One of our first deals ever we tried to purchase. Basically, we bought it from someone who wasn't the actual rightful owner. And after we closed and tried to evict the tenants, turns out we didn't have the right to do so. And luckily we had title insurance, so we got our purchase price back. If we didn't have title insurance, we just did a quick claim deed, we would have been out of the water for our purchase price. So your title insurance covers this $65,000 purchase price. Next thing, we already talked about it. We're budgeting about $14,000 for the renovation. We could get away with less, but again, we're trying to get the appraisal. So that puts us all in so far. I'm not gonna add any holding costs because we don't have a loan on the property. So we're all in $83,750. That is our total out of pocket. Now the refinance, we are estimating ARV to be $125. 75% of that is $93,000. I'm gonna subtract out closing costs and fees for our lender, $93,750, subtracting our closing costs for our lender, about that much. So it's gonna be roughly $90,000 plus or minus $1,000 to borrower. So base case scenario, because this is the middle of the road, it could be 135 or it could be 115 on the ARV. So our base case is gonna have us being at plus 93,000. This is how much we're out of pocket, so roughly plus 7 grand. Now this, to us, we're not banking on this. We're completely happy if we don't get this back. After the refi, this property now has a mortgage. So how much is it gonna cash flow? When we refinance, we rarely pull out more than 75% of the market value. The reason we like to cap it at 75% is because that means every deal we leave 25% equity in the property. That protects our cash flow and it protects us from becoming over leveraged. For our entire portfolio, buying and refinancing, every deal we leave 25% equity, your portfolio is left far more durable to fluctuations in interest rates and market conditions. Leave 25% in every deal and it'll be much harder for you to over leverage yourself and shoot yourself in the foot. Here are the numbers on this. So roughly that $93,000 loan, where I'm gonna assume 7%, we get rates between 6.25 to like 7, mid 7s. So 7% interest rate, 30-year, ballpark monthly mortgage payment, not including taxes and insurance, $619. Next, rent. Market rent for this property is gonna be between $1,200 and all the way up to $1,350. Section 8 as well will probably land somewhere between $1,100 and $1,400 because it is a 3-2, which does better for Section 8 and in our market rents really well. So middle of the road, kind of leaning towards a more conservative estimate, we got $1,250 on the rent. Taxes, our market got really cheap taxes, roughly $800 a year. So $67 a month towards taxes
Insurance also not too bad in our market. Biggest things for insurance is hail damage, but about 75 bucks a month. Property management, our property manager gets 8% of the rent collected. So 100 bucks is 8% of 1250. Maintenance and repair reserves. We are doing a full remodel. We're making sure all the essential systems are up to date. So we don't anticipate high maintenance and reserve expenses for the first 5 years, but still good to set aside about 5 to 10% of the monthly rent for maintenance and reserves. Vacancy rate, assume 5 to 10% of the time your property is gonna be vacant if it's in middle to low income housing. However, if you get Section 8, obviously that number will be lower. For this, it's a 3-2. We anticipate a family moving in there and hopefully staying for more than 2 years. So I would almost bet that that would be lower. And lastly is our mortgage, leaving us with over $200 a month in cash flow. And this scenario has us pulling out more cash than we put in. These numbers seem unreasonable, but we have an entire business built around sourcing discounted off-market deals. So deals like this, relatively common because it's a game of volume. We send out over 5,000 letters per month. Our cold callers are doing over 5,000 calls a day. Our website for most search terms relating to sell my house fast is ranked between first and third for our market. So we get tons of leads from Google. We spend about $3,000 a month on PPC, another $4,000 a month on PPL, and we have signage around our market. So when you're doing that kind of marketing, deals like this are what you get. That's an entire business. But for you as a regular investor, maybe not full-time investor, you can get that benefit from having better connections with wholesalers and doing a little bit of your own marketing. A lot of investors are at the mercy of how good their wholesalers are, how good their realtor is, and like how the market is doing. So if you're watching this and you're a full-time investor and even part-time investor, I really encourage you to look into, if you have any time you can be investing every month or money you can be investing every month into sourcing your own deals. Doesn't have to be crazy like us. Just a little bit is all you need. One cold caller will get you a deal every 3 to 6 months that can look just like this. And a cold caller costs you $500-600 bucks a month. One mailing campaign every 3 months can get you 1 to 2 deals that look like this. So just think about it. Do you have the money? Do you have the time to maybe start doing your own marketing? All right, so you see $270 a month. What are we doing with that $270? Are Antonio and I just pocketing it and using it to go take trips, fun bucks, spend it? I'm gonna end this video by talking about how we pay ourselves from our portfolio and how you should really be tapping into the wealth and cash flow your rentals create for you. It is getting hot. It reminds me whenever we first started buying properties, I was our property manager and handyman and GC. And I had a Ford Expedition that had about 400,000 miles on it. And it was early August, AC went out, and I would be doing my rounds in town 3 days a week. It'd be over 100 degrees and I'd be going and doing work orders with no AC, checking in on jobs with no AC. And I did that for about 3 weeks in 100+ degree heat, no AC. I just rolled down all the windows. I'd keep 2 gallons of water with me. I had so much anxiety around our properties that I didn't care. I was just like, work's got to get done. Doesn't matter how hot it is. I just had to get in the trenches and do whatever it took. After those 3 weeks, I literally drove that car to the dealership. It was after a really hot day. I had just had enough. And that's when I bought this Toyota Camry. That was right about the end of when I was still doing everything from property management to repairs and maintenance. And coming back to these hot days, it's 100 degrees out now, and all I'm doing at least is just checking in on stuff. I am really grateful that I learned to delegate and I'm not in this heat every single day. So also why I respect so much our workers who put up with this heat and get out there every day and get after it. So that's why you should definitely pay your workers on time. Depending on what market you're in, this is the kind of weather they're putting up with, and if you delegate it, you don't have to be in the heat. So be good to your workers, pay them on time, be respectful.
Stop at Kava before I get home. Now look, if you follow Hormozi, you probably already know the thought process behind outsourcing food prep, planning, and meals versus meal prepping and saving a little bit of money on groceries. Basically, you can only save so much money, but you can earn an unlimited amount. So the 4 hours per week you spend preparing food, you could be applying towards your business. So say this meal I'm about to eat, it's gonna be 15, maybe 20 bucks total. It's gonna save me probably an hour worth of my time, because, okay, say I meal prepped it on a Sunday, or I came home and started cooking this meal tonight, that would have probably cost me about an hour to 2 hours of my time, whereas I just spend 20 bucks. All I got to do is make sure I earn more than 20 bucks an hour, and it's worth it. In the past, I've tried to be good about, oh, I'm going to go to Costco, I'm going to stock up, and I'm going to prep for the week. But as soon as I get locked in and busy, that goes out the window. And then I'm not eating healthy, so therefore I'm not feeling healthy, and then I'm not focusing as good, and I'm not working as well with projects I got going on. I'm not working as good. So not only is it costing me time by trying to prep my meals, it's also costing me productivity, because I'm not as healthy and well fed. So then takes away from work, not only from time, but also from actual unit of output per time I'm working. So yeah, I am gonna go spend $20 at Kava right now. All right, so you worked hard. You did the hard part, which was finding a deal and buying a deal and stabilizing a deal. Now, how are you going to pay yourself? This is something, when Antonio and I did our first deals, we didn't even have a plan, and we had no procedure on how to pay ourselves, when we were going to pay ourselves, or even how to know if we could pay ourselves. So I'm going to give you guys 3 guidelines, 3 rules, or really philosophies around paying yourself from your rental properties. There's a clip of Barbara from Shark Tank where she is talking about her strategy with real estate is basically using the real estate she owns as the bank. As in, when she needs to get money or a large amount of cash, she leverages and refinances her properties in order to get large amounts of tax-free cash. Yes, she is taking on debt by doing that, but that debt is tied to that property. You'll hear everybody saying real estate is what gives you generational wealth and financial invincibility, but not that many people actually go into detail on the mechanics of what that looks like and how it actually makes you financially invincible and protects you and your family. Say one of your kids, God forbid, they have some unique illness and they require a bunch of medical treatment. Well, cash flow from 20, 30, 40, even 50 rent houses might not be enough. Probably won't be enough. But if you can tap into the equity of your portfolio, because if you're doing the BRRRR method, like I talk about, where you leave 25% equity in every house, and you've been doing this for a few years, you're getting the debt paid down, and also every house you buy, you're adding forced appreciation, you can tap into that equity to get a large amount of tax-free cash to protect you and your family. So when you're doing the BRRRR method, you should be refinancing and using that cash to buy more deals. But after you've been doing this for 5 to 10 years, between the debt being paid down by the tenant and the rent and the value of the property going up, after 5 or 10 years of doing this, odds are you have a large amount of equity you can tap into still. And if you have a good relationship with your DSCR lender or bank, it should be relatively easy for you to do so. So you're not going through life raising a family at the mercy of your income and cash flow. You have the portfolio you can leverage to get access to cash. Reserves first. Reserves apply to what you do with your rental income and your refinance cash. So Antonio and I, when we first started buying rental properties and we were getting monthly rental income, we were just putting that right in the same operating account that our whole business was running, and we weren't setting aside reserves for any of the properties. First of all, when you refinance a property, those funds, you should always be setting aside reserves for the portfolio as a whole. This will ensure that as you scale past 20 doors, 30 doors, 40 doors, as your monthly mortgage payment gets higher, you're sitting on enough liquidity that you're safe for vacancy, collection issues, maintenance, repairs, turnover, and all the headaches that everyone talks about with real estate. The second thing with reserves is your actual rental income. Before you pay yourself anything out of the cash flow from your rentals, you need to be making sure that whatever was collected and whatever is left after the mortgage is paid and all other operating expenses like your property manager insurance, you need to set aside reserves for vacancy rate, so 5 to 10% of the total rental income, and then maintenance and repair, set aside 5 to 10% of the total rental income. You need to set aside those funds before you pay yourself a penny. Tony and I didn't understand this. When rental income would come in, we'd use it as needed for other places in the business, and never actually set aside reserves for each independent property. So before you pay yourself out of a refinance or rental income, make sure you set aside your reserves. Portfolio versus deal. If you've been following me for a little bit, you've probably heard me talk about volume in real estate. Volume, everything from how many cold calls you do, how many mailers you do, how many properties you refinance and do in a year, and how many deals you actually do in a year. With that, when we are deciding how we should pay ourselves, if you are deciding to pay yourself off of one deal, doing better than average, one thing I talk about a lot is how by doing more deals, you'll have a certain portion of them that are singles, a certain portion that are home runs, and a certain portion that are bad. Applying that same logic to paying ourselves means that just because one deal does exceptional on the refi and maybe is cash flowing so much more aggressively than the other properties, does not mean you should pay yourself disproportionately out of that deal, because that deal might just be pulling and making up for the underperformance of another deal in your portfolio. So just because you have one superstar deal does not mean you need to pay yourself more out of that deal, because that deal might just be pulling and making up for another dud deal in your portfolio. At scale, what would happen if you pay yourself more out of the superstar deals, then you don't have that pool from the really good deals bringing up the average of your portfolio to be stable and okay. Prioritize looking at the actual overarching performance of your portfolio to determine how much more you should pay yourself, or give yourself a bonus for a good 6-month run. Like say the portfolio did really good for 6 months, pay yourself extra out of the performance of the portfolio, not a singular property. Sound fair enough?
There's one more rule that I don't think is a blanket prescription, but it is a rule that Antonio and I followed, which is basically don't pay yourself at all until the portfolio is where you want it to be. Now, there's some philosophies like the pay yourself first guy. I don't remember his name, but I know his book is called something along the lines of pay yourself first. And his philosophy is, yes, as you're growing a business and as you're being an entrepreneur, you should prioritize paying yourself, taking care of yourself. Antonio and I practiced a scorched earth mentality when it came to scaling our rental portfolio. We spent any positive cash flow and any excess from refinances on more properties. This was not responsible for us to do. We ran with no reserves. We ran with credit cards as our reserves, and the consequences of that was twofold. Yes, we scaled a massive portfolio really quickly, but we did so in an extremely risky way, and we only were able to pull it off because every deal we bought was at such a discount because we built a wholesaling business first. Do I recommend you do this? No. Because if you are buying from other wholesalers or realtors or on the MLS, this strategy just simply wouldn't work. You would not have enough discounts to make up for the lack of reserves and responsibility with cash and prioritizing paying yourself and getting enough reserves as you're scaling. Yes, that's how we scaled the portfolio so quickly, but I want you to understand how broke Antonio and I felt while doing that. You hear that someone's buying a lot of houses, you think they must be rolling, they must be balling out of control, driving a G-Wagon, whatever. But the fact is, houses are extremely expensive. Purchasing them, remodeling them, and even owning them is expensive. If you want to actually feel the gains from investing in real estate, go slower, prioritize reserves, and follow those rules that I just laid out, minus the last rule that Antonio and I followed, and you will actually feel a little bit more of the wealth that it's generating. You'll sleep better at night, and you won't hate the process of growing a real estate portfolio. That's all I got. Guys, if you want to do a deal with me, with my lender, my crew, my team, my market, please click the link below. Otherwise, subscribe, like, and comment what you want to see more of. Thank you. Have a nice night. Bye.